Ezra Perek Daled Pasuk Zion starts the text of a letter that was written by the Tzarei Yehuda specifically to the king of Persia, who at this time was named Artaxerxes. In English, it's known as Artaxerxes, who was likely, at least according to the historians, the king after Xerxes, who was Achashverosh. According to Chazal, Artaxerxes is the same exact king as Darius, and Artaxerxes is actually the name given for all the Persian kings, similar to Pharaoh, who is not the name of any specific king of Egypt, but the name given to all the kings of Egypt. Be that as may, we're going to read the letter. I have the English in front of you because the letter is written in Aramaic. This is one of the many examples in Sefer Ezra how it is a composite work, that a number of different sources were put together in composing Sefer Ezra, including a number of letters, and therefore the letters are kept in the original language. I'm going to refer to the Aramaic, but I'm also going to look at the English much of the time, since obviously many of us are not necessarily familiar with Aramaic the same way we'd be familiar with Hebrew and certainly English. Ubimei atachshachta kata bishlam mitradat tavael ushar kavanato. So all these people write, Al Artaxerxes melech Paras, to Artaxerxes, the king of Persia, Ukitav hanishtavan biktav aramit. The letter was written in Aramaic, umiturgaman aramit, and set forth in the Aramaic tongue. So it was written with Aramaic characters, and it was also written with Aramaic language. So the alphabet used was the Aramaic alphabet, and likewise the language as well was Aramaic. Rechum Baal Ta'im, Rechum the commander, Shimshai Sifra, Shimshai the scribe, Katvu Igra Chada Al Yerushalayim, La Shakshakta Malka Kanema. They're writing a letter against Jerusalem, Al Yerushalayim to Arshachtata. Adayim Rechum Baal Ta'im, then wrote Rechum the commander. So Rechum is the name of the commander of the Sarei Yehuda. Uvishimshai Sifra, Shimshai the scribe, Ushar Kavnata, Dinai of Arshata, Tarpilaya, Arprasalia, Arkaya, Bablaya, Shukhnaya, Dahavi Al Maya. So at the name of all the different companions, so we see there are a lot of different people and really different groups of people coming together with the Sarei Yehuda, although we identify the Sarei Yehuda with the Kutim or with the Samaritans in English. You see that the Sarei Yehuda, even though they're identified with the Samaritans, are actually a combination of many different peoples who are coming together, and the common denominator of all of them is they're against Yehuda, thus the name. Ushar Umaya Dihagle Anfasata Rabba Yakira, and the rest of the nations whom the great and noble Anfasa brought over, Votev Himo Bekiria Di Shamrin Ushar Avar Denaya Ukanenya. So these are the people who are brought to Shomron, these are the Samaritans, all these different groups of people who come together who are now writing. Dina Parshagan Igratata Dishalacha Aloya Atashta Malka Avdin Anosh Avar Naraka. This is the copy of the letter that they sent over to Artaxerxes on the other side, the servant beyond the river. So these are they're saying the letter. Now we're going to actually read the letter. Yehidiya lahave malkat, known to the king. Yehudaya disalika min levata. The Jews who came here. Alina atil Yerushalayim, they came up to Jerusalem. Kiryata maradata ubi ishta, very important. They are building a rebellious and bad city. So this is a letter against the building of the city of Yerushalayim. Benaya Ushuraya Vushaya Yachatike. And they're finishing the walls, and they're digging the foundations. By the way, there is no mention in the letter that they're building the Beit HaMikdash, which is once again proof to the fact that this letter might not have been written at the time of Darius, as the Chazal, at least the predominant position of Chazal is, but as the minority position of the Malbim and the Baal Or and others, and the position of the historians, this letter likely was written a generation or two later, at the time of Artaxerxes, who was a different king, and it was specifically written not against the building of the Beit HaMikdash, which at this time is already built, but against the building of the walls of Jerusalem and the foundations of Jerusalem. Ka'an Yidia lahave malka dihain kiryata ditit b'nei, known to the king that the city be builded. Usharaya yishtaklun, and the wall be finished. Minda below v'halak lo ditnunun, they will not pay the tribute. Vaftaya malkin diadik, though they're not going to pay their taxes. Basically, we're saying that it's in your interest, King Artashata, to stop the building of this wall, because as long as they continue, they will not pay taxes anymore. Ka'an ko kabel di malach heichla lelachma. Now, because we eat the salt of the palace, v'arvat malka, lo arich lana lemechazei al dina shalchana v'odana lemalka. We don't want to see this happen, the king's dishonor. So we don't want to see this, that they won't pay their taxes. They're acting like they have only the king's best interest in mind. Therefore, we're writing that they should not be allowed to continue to rebuild Jerusalem, which they describe as a rebellious and bad city. Kiryat Maradita, from the word mered, rebellion. In Hebrew we have the same word. Ubeishta, ba'ish in Aramaic means bad. Continue with the letter. Di yavaker b'sifra dechwana di avata utishak b'sifra dechwana v'tinde. Search in all your books and your record. Di kervata da kirya marada umanzik malkin umedina. So this was, I'll just read the English, a rebellious city, hurtful to kings and promises. It has moved sedition within the same old time for which the cause of the sea was laid waste. So if you look at your history books, and we know the Persians were known for their record, you'll know that Jerusalem was always a rebellious city. They were actually destroyed at the time of the Babylonians because they rebelled, and therefore you shouldn't build it. We announced to the king that if the city be builded and the walls be finished, by this means thou hast no portion beyond the river. In other words, what's going to happen is you're going to lose your entire kingdom beyond the river, because the Jews are not in fact allies, but they are rebels. So we see once again that they're trying to get the king against the Jews by saying it's not in your best interest to allow them to build. Then sent the king an answer unto Rechum, and the letter is, I decreed, and search has been made, and is found that this city of old time had made insurrection against kings, rebellion and sedition have been made therein. So he says, in fact, that we know, the king says, that they have been rebels. There have been mighty kings also over Jerusalem, who ruled over the country beyond the river, and tribute was paid unto them. Make you now a decree to cause these men to cease, and the city not be builded until a decree be made. So they say that levatala guvraya ilech lekiryata deloyit b'nei, that actually the king responds and says in the letter that the city of Jerusalem should not be rebuilt. And take heed that you may not slack herein. Why should damage grow to the hurt of the king? Then, when copy of the letter was sent to Rechum and Shimshai, they went in haste to Jerusalem and made them cease by force and power. So we see another example of the Sarei Yehuda being effective in stopping the building, not of the Beit HaMikdash, but of the city of Jerusalem. And then finally, now we get back to our time period, which was a generation or two earlier, at the time of Darius. Then ceased the work of the house of God, which is at Jerusalem. It ceased until the second year of the reign of the king of Darius. So according to the historian, this whole letter, which we just saw, was actually a letter from later on, retelling another example of a story where the Sarei Yehuda caused us problems with the king and stopped our rebuilding. And once again, just like we see in our story, we're returning to the time of Darius, where at least temporarily, we'll see until Parakeh, they have called the stopping of the building of Jerusalem. Thank you.